Woody looked as though he had an impenetrable secret which Evan Strick would be unable to access. Chapter 11. Each word that the man spoke tore at the boy's moral fibre. Although Evan was pleased that his young self did not believe everything which he was told without questioning it, he was beginning to get a little concerned as to how he could convince the boy that they were one and the same person. Never mind that he would then be expected to talk him into going on a journey with him and another stranger who he himself did not really know. Evan was stuck. Look to yourself for the answer. Fate's advice gave his memory a nudge. The words repeated themselves inside his head. Look to yourself. Look to yourself. And then it registered exactly what fate meant, and again Evan felt uncomfortable with the intimate knowledge which fate possessed about Evan himself and the young boy. Evan coughed to get the boy's attention. That scar on your stomach, how did you get it? With that one question he had regained Woody's full attention as the scar was covered over by the boy's t-shirt. Having captured the boy's interest again and stimulated his curiosity once more, Evan continued with the game of truth and honesty versus lies and deceit. I suppose you're going to tell me the same thing that you tell everyone else, aren't you? Have you caught yourself on a broken branch when you fell from this tree? Now, we both know that's not true, don't we? Woody could feel his face becoming flushed with embarrassment, and he hoped that the man was bluffing, for compared to his middle-name secret, the cause of the scar was so embarrassingly awful that he had never shared its true cause with anybody. Nobody could guess at the scar's origin, and only he knew how it had really been caused. Evan could see that the boy was squirming, and he could sense his anguish, his discomfort, but he knew that he needed to carry on pushing him into an inescapable corner where the only possible outcome would be the truth, covered in shame. For a start, it's the wrong shape to have been caused by a branch. It was caused by a fence post, and that's why it's in the shape of an L. Woody was now beginning to feel very awkward and self-conscious about what the man was saying to him, and still Evan pushed his poor young self tighter into the confines of the uncomfortable truth. You were on a fence trying to look into a window at a certain young lady who was in the process of removing her clothes, ready to take a shower, and you slipped. The youngster lowered his head, no longer willing to look at Evan, as each word that the man spoke pulled at his moral fibre. The secret which he had been hiding for the past year was slowly revealed, as the lie which he had contrived was torn away, layer by layer. Hey, Evan said softly, as he reached out and touched the boy under his chin to lift his head a little. You have nothing to be ashamed of around me. You should realize that everything you have ever done, I have also done. Besides, she was old enough to know better than to undress before closing the curtains. Woody was now being tugged in different directions by various confusing and uncomfortable feelings, which made him want to believe the man in order to make the prickly thoughts leave him alone. His rationality, though, was preventing him from accepting the man's identity. The dilemma that was facing him was that it seemed like such an outrageous claim for the man to be the person who he would become as a grown-up. Alternatively, if he accepted that the man was telling the truth, then they were both guilty of the intimate peeping crime. Don't talk to strangers. His mother's voice suddenly jumped into his head out of nowhere. But if the man was who he claimed to be, then surely he was not a stranger. Further, if he could accept the man at his word, then the feelings of awkwardness and guilt which he was suffering would have to go away, because the man had done everything that he had done. And look what a fine young man I've turned out to be. He pondered a moment longer, and then finally accepted Evan's claim. You really are me, aren't you? Yes, I am you, or rather, who you are going to become, which means, of course, that you are me. That's why you know about me going to the derelict mill and the origin of the scar. He lowered his voice. And the girl, isn't it? Yes, that's right. I know everything about you, and everything you have ever done. You have no secrets from me, young man. All of a sudden, a mischievous realization popped into Evan's head, and he just had to try it out. Would you like to play a game to see whether I can read your mind? Yes, I would. Of course, you would have known that if you were any good at mind reading. He smiled, but this time there was no smirk or sarcasm, just friendly banter. Are you ready for the magic, young Evan? Oh, please, you sound like a pensioner. Let's make a deal right here and right now. You call me Woody, and I promise not to refer to you as Old Woody. Deal? Deal, agreed Evan, thinking how long it had been since anybody had referred to him as Woody. Now, on with the magic. Think of a number between 1 and 30. Got one? The boy nodded. Right then, what I need you to do is to concentrate on your number, the one that you chose by yourself at random. Just give me a minute. Just a minute. Here comes the answer. Here's Woody's young self. Woody looked as though he had an impenetrable secret which Evan's trick would be unable to access. The number that you are thinking of is... You little cheat. No matter. Your ploy never worked. The number that you chose is 39. A look of complete wonderment replaced Woody's earlier expression of invincibility. How did you manage to work out my number when I never even stuck to the rules? I told you, my friend, you have no secrets from me. The moment that made you focus your attention on the number of your choice, it became etched into our memories. And the fact that you cheated helped to imprint it deeper. Evan stood up as there was one last of acknowledgement which still remained under wraps. Just in case any final doubt may be lingering at the back of the boy's mind, Evan pulled up his own sweatshirt to reveal an identical scar in the exact same place as the boy's. He then nodded, saying as he did, I am you. And I am you, acknowledged the boy. Woody stood up and smiled. His feelings of guilt and embarrassment dissolved, replaced by other feelings which were new to him. For the first time in his life that he could recall, he had met someone who finally understood him and accepted him for the way that he was. He knew that Evan the man must surely understand the way in which he used his imagination as a way to escape the ordinariness and the boredom of life, which he sometimes felt trapped in. He felt that he had found a friend, and smiled as he looked Evan up and down, pleased with the way which he had filled out. He looked at the shiny gold watch which his older self was wearing, and looked forward to the day when he could afford such splendour. Evan was also looking at his younger self and thinking how best he could convince Woody to go on a journey with him and a stranger who had an unusual name and more odd clothes. Woody gave himself, the elder, a little tug on the sleeve and inquired, If you know everything that I've done, then you must know all the things that I'm going to do in the future. Evan was rather surprised at how quickly the youngster had grasped the concept of the interchanging roles that they played in each other's lives. He had been given the opening that his mind had been rummaging around for, and he took it, answering the boy like this. I'm glad you mentioned that, so I can tell you about our future and our friend. Which friend? He inquired, feeling as though I was part of a very select club on hearing the words, our friend. Evan pointed across the river to where Fate was stood patiently waiting. Who's that? It's a very good friend of ours, whom I'd like to meet. He's here to help us. With what? Our life. He wondered why they needed help, especially Evan. How? How will he help us? And with what? He wants to take us on a journey along the highways of life, teaching us both lessons and helping us to develop the right kind of attitude, one which will not make your life, and of course mine, better than it is at the moment. He will help us to reach our full potential as the magnificent human beings which we are. Evan wondered where he had got his last sentence from, and thought that perhaps hanging around with such a clever chap as Fate was already beginning to rub off on him. The boy wondered what Evan was talking about, all this stuff about help and lessons being taught. After all, he seemed to be doing very well so far, what with the gold watch and the Trader Hustler sweatshirt that he was wearing. And what about me? How's he going to help me when he doesn't even know me? This is all a bit much, considering that I was only supposed to be going fishing and then to Johnson's mill. And now I'm expected to go somewhere to learn some stuff with someone I don't even know. Woody was beginning to feel uneasy and wondered what his mother would make of all of this. He then looked at Evan and deliberated for a moment. Mind you, if I can't trust myself, then who am I supposed to trust? He decided to go along with his own self-judgment for now and see what happened. If as a man I feel I need some help as a boy, then I suppose there must be a reason. Let's see what his friend has to say.